Everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how to make this Tigger 3D paper craft project. They're one of my favourite things to make, so let's get started. So we're just going to hop straight into Design Space and work out the order and what colours of card we're going to need to make Tigger. This will just make it easier when you're actually cutting on your machine. So what I'm going to do is just work out now how many different colours I'm going to need by looking at the layers on the right hand side. So this shows me how many layers I've got that the machine is going to try and cut. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm just going to go up to make it, and then the machine will show me which order it's going to do each of the cuts in. And then this will help me to lay out my paper in the order so that I don't get mixed up, because it's really easy to get jumbled, especially when you've got 10 different layers. So it shows me all the different colours that I've got and what order they're going to be cut in. So now I'm going to go to my cardstock and work out all the different colours that I want to use for each layer. I love that sparkly glittery one, and I'm hoping to use that for the main background on Tigger. So I've got all my different layers. That white one's really thick, it's a bit of a heavy duty cardstock, but it'll be okay. So I've got all my colours sorted. I did put them in cutting order as well, but I don't think I've filmed that. So I'm just going to set my mat up and start cutting each layer out. I'm not going to show you every single layer cutting, it's a bit boring, but that's what I'm going to do next. So once it's finished cutting, we're just going to get the first piece of the design off the mat. Always turn it over and peel your mat away from your material. Bend your mat, not your cardboard. So we're just going to whiz through all the different layers in all the different colours, and then when we've got to the end I will show you the next step. I just thought I would show you this one. This is the black outline for the top layer of Tigger, and it's a bit more complicated to get off the mat than just peeling it over because it's so thin. It's quite an intricate cut, so we need to be really careful how we take it off the mat so that we don't rip it or cut any of his bits. So I'm just going to start off by flipping the mat over as normal, and then I get my main body of the excess card peeled off. So that's out the way, we can start looking at how to get this quite thin, delicate cut off the mat. I'm going to use my spatula tool just to ease up a little bit on his ear, and then I'm going to really carefully try and peel it off. And I decided that it would be too difficult to keep trying to do it with the mat facing the other way, so I decided to flip it back over and just really carefully use the spatula to go around each part of the design, just really gently lifting it off the mat, just making sure that if there's any little bits that are joined up, that I'm not going to tear them. And I just keep doing that really carefully all over the whole design until I've got the whole piece off the mat. There we go, after a lot of hard work is our top layer fully intact. So now I'm just going to take a scraper and remove all of the excess pieces of cardstock from the mat. So I've encountered a problem with one of my layers. You can see here that the machine has taken out a couple of pieces of the design, and there's a couple of tiny little tears around his eyes that I don't know if I'm going to be able to notice that when he's actually all put together. So what I'm going to do is probably clean my blade and recut this piece, but I'll see how it is when I get it off the mat, but I will show you how I clean the blade. So I'll just use my spatula again to remove this layer, and it doesn't look as though it's damaged, so I will use it still. There's no need to recut, but I will show you how I'm going to clean the blade, because sometimes you get little bits stuck to it and you'll be able to see that when you get it out of your machine. So just take your blade out of your machine, and if you push the plunger on the end of the blade housing, you'll be able to pop the blade out like this, and then you'll be able to see if there's any dust, bits of vinyl, stuff like that stuck to the end of it. if I can get this to focus, you'll be able to see that there's a couple of fuzzy bits on the end of my fine point blade, and they're off the cardstock. So I've just got a ball of foil, just normal foil that you'd use for your cooking and stuff. Poke the blade into the foil ball 5 or 6 times, and then you take it out, and you'll be able to see that your blade has had all of the fuzzy bits removed off it, so it's nice and clean now. I'm just going to do it a couple more times for good measure, and then I'll pop it back in the machine and carry on cutting. So now you can see that blade's lovely and clean and ready to cut again. So another reason why you might get a bit of catching with your blade is that you haven't pushed down or flattened your card enough onto your mat. Now with this layer I obviously overdid it a bit because I really struggled to get it off, and I did have a little bit of residue left on my mat. This was a relatively new one, so it was still pretty sticky, and you might be able to see there was a few fuzzy bits left behind on the mat. You'll notice now that I have changed my cutting setting to poster board because this is a 240 GSM fixed glitter cardstock. It's quite thick, it's white cord, which you will see in a moment, and when I've used the intricate setting before now, it hasn't been enough for this, and because this is a white piece of card with a layer of glittered film on the top, the film has actually detached from the white before and it rips it, so I'll change my setting for that reason. So everything is cut out. I've got my 10 layers all ready. So now I've got all my layers cut, I'm going to put them together, one on top of the other in the order that they'll go, just to make sure I'm happy with the way each one's cut and make sure that I've got every piece that I need. So these aren't fixed, but this is what he's going to look like when he's finished. So the next step is to flip him over and take off each piece as you go. I just like to work backwards because it makes more sense for me to do it that way. So I'm just going to cut some strips off this foam roll and then I'll start assembling my Tigger. So I've got my bits of foam roll and I'm just going to put one in each quarter of the first circle. I like to use my tweezers to take the backing paper off of the foam pad. You don't have to, you can just use your fingers if you want to, but I prefer to do it this way. So I'm just going to keep going, assembling each layer as I go and flipping over from the left to the right to make sure that I've got them in the right order. Do you like it with no music? I've decided not to put music against this video just so that it's a bit more peaceful for people to watch. I don't know, sometimes the music's a bit intrusive. What do you think? Let me know. When you're putting the foam pad onto the really thin outer outline piece, you may find that you'll need to cut it really thin in order to get it to stick on. And you'll notice that when you've actually applied it to the main body of your design, that you might see the white parts. If you can, just get a Sharpie and just colour in the white part of the foam roll, and then that will stop it from being quite so visible. There we go, he's all put together. So all that's left to do now is attach him to his blue glittery base. So if I flip him around now, you'll see how thick it actually is with all the layers. I'd say it probably measures about 15 millimeters. So I'm just going to stick him onto here now, and that will be Tigger finished. So all that's left to be said now is thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. Maybe even consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on any future videos. If you'd like to see more like this, please comment down below. And thanks for watching.